This is Dave Swank, and I am sharing my 770 final project about blended learning in the station rotation model. As a principal, I believe the most important responsibility that I have is to close the opportunity gap that exists for my students. There are two ways that I see for schools to go about doing this. First, schools can provide access to a broad range of experiences that students may not otherwise have access to. And second, we can provide the foundational learning delivered by qualified teachers using sound instructional strategies that allow students to become the architects of their own futures. If we do not take advantage of every available moment of the limited time that we have, then we're doing our students, their families, and our community a disservice. In my school, a significant amount of instructional time is lost throughout the day from either poor implementation of transitions between academic contexts, from poor instructional strategies, or from off-task behavior. The lost instructional time is compounded by the fact that the independent academic activities that students transition between are frequently low rigor, low relevance, one-size-fits-all activities with little to no accountability or connection to the otherwise intentional teaching that's taken place in the classroom. The goal of this study is to explore a different model of content delivery that ensures students are working on rigorous, relevant, and engaging material regardless of whether they're working directly with a teacher in order to improve student achievement and academic growth. It's helpful, I think, to have the context that this particular study fits within. So our school is undergoing a paradigm shift towards mass customized learning, and blended learning is a component of the overall school redesign process that we're undertaking. That also includes personalized learning in which students are navigating their own pace and pathway, and then our student interest groups in which students have some voice and choice and agency over the content that they're learning. The station rotation model of blended learning that we piloted in several classrooms in my school during the math block is the avenue that I'm using to meet our goal. Teachers were involved in establishing the core stations, academic activities, and resources that are going to be used within the pilot. So the first of the four zones is the coaching zone, and this is where face-to-face small group differentiated instruction using core curriculum materials takes place. Next, we have the collaboration zone, which is where small group peer-supported collaborative tasks, including number talks, dialogue about work that they're doing, inquiry and exploration are all taking place. The independent zone, which is simply where students are taking independent assessments that allow us to know on a daily basis how they're performing. And then finally, the personal flex zone, which is where they're doing a review of previously taught content or pre-teaching upcoming content. So this study involved 3 teachers in the pilot group and 3 teachers in the control group, all from 3rd and 4th grades. The long-term outcome that I was pursuing is providing a personalized learning environment in which all students are working within their zone of proximal development regardless of age, grade, or ability. This study seeks to answer the following research question. In what ways does student achievement in mathematics differ when a blended learning station rotation model is implemented rather than a traditional learning model during a 3rd and 4th grade mathematics block as measured by unit post-tests? I deliberately chose to do a short data cycle collection because the implementation of the overall school redesign initiative had its own timeline. The blended learning study that I'm talking about here fit into a particular stage of that implementation. So in short, engaging in action research on this particular topic within the confines of my school had to be done in a small window of time. So taking a look at some results, in order to ensure that the blended station rotation model was implemented with fidelity, I conducted environmental walkthroughs of all 3 classrooms that received the blended station rotation intervention. In these walkthroughs, I looked for implementation of the physical layout of the station rotation model, including clearly established zones, signs indicating standard operating procedures and activity types for each zone, and an indicator of what round the class was in and which group should be in what zones. I also looked for specific student and teacher activities. Teachers were expected to be working with small groups during rounds or actively supervising students between rounds, and students were expected to be engaged in similar activities while in specific zones. So for example, students working in the collaboration zone were expected to be working together to solve problems. All of the teachers who implemented the station rotation intervention did so with fidelity, as you can see in this slide. To determine the impact of blended learning station rotation model on student growth, I reviewed pre and post-test data from 6 classroom teachers across 2 grade levels. In 3rd grade, there were 2 classrooms that received the intervention and 1 that did not. In 4th grade, there was 1 classroom that received the intervention and 2 that did not. Based on their average mean scores, all 6 classrooms demonstrated improvement from pre-test to post-test, ranging from an increase of 13.71 percentage points to 22.9 percentage points. While each classroom, regardless of receiving the intervention or not, demonstrated growth from pre-test to post-test, the change in mean scores was higher in all of the classrooms within a grade level implementing the blended station rotation model. This data then suggests that 3rd grade students in a blended learning station rotation model grow on average over 6 percentage points more than students in a traditional environment, and that 4th grade students in a blended learning station rotation model grow on average over 4 percentage points more than students in a traditional environment. In addition to collecting pre and post-test data to measure student growth, I also conducted a survey of students to gauge their perceptions of the effectiveness of the math instruction they received. I felt that this was important to do because of the possibility of a null hypothesis. So what I did is that I asked both the experimental and control groups to rate their agreement with the following statements on a 5-point Likert scale, with 1 meaning strongly disagree and a 5 meaning strongly agree. The first statement was, I am learning what I need to in order to be successful in math. The second statement is, I enjoy my math block. The third statement was, I'm able to keep up with the instruction in math without feeling lost. And then I also asked only the experimental group how they felt about this statement. I feel like I'm learning more with station rotation than I did before. In all instances, for all statements, the experimental group rated their experience in the blended station rotation higher than the control group did for their traditional environment. The results of this study indicated that students who received their mathematics instruction in a blended station rotation model demonstrated higher growth than their peers who received mathematics instruction in a traditional setting. Additionally, students who were in a classroom where the station rotation model was implemented with fidelity felt overall that they were more successful, had higher levels of enjoyment, and were better able to keep pace with instruction than their peers in the traditional setting. Finally, students who were in the station rotation classrooms indicated a preference for that style of instruction. Based on the results of this study, the blended station rotation model shows promise as an instructional model for mathematics at the elementary school level. Despite the fact that this study was conducted over a short time frame, significant growth was demonstrated within the unit of instruction, and perhaps even more importantly, students showed a preference for this type of instruction and increased engagement and enjoyment. If kids like going to school, show academic growth, and feel successful, then we increase the likelihood of future success. Now that this study is concluded, the first step that I'm going to undertake is to expand the implementation of blended station rotation instruction to all classrooms in 2nd through 5th grade at my school. As part of a larger personalized learning initiative, blended station rotation will be the mode of instructional delivery and assessment for all students in 2nd through 5th grades. We're doing a soft launch of this to finish the current school year. During the next 6 weeks, I will be collecting feedback from teachers and students to refine the practices, as well as continuing to conduct walkthroughs. Next year, all students will begin the school year in this more personalized environment. So this project really helped me to communicate a data-informed shared vision with a focus on academic success and overall well-being because first, I provided sufficient background information to the staff members who were involved in the study. Second, I included the participants in the study in the project design. And finally, I think we measured the right things, so success, engagement, and enjoyment. The core value that drove this study was equity. This project allowed me to promote in a really tangible way the need for equity in instruction across the school. And then finally, I think the act of completing this project really highlighted a need for a research-based process for implementing short cycle innovative practices. Too often as educators, we chase the shiny new thing or the silver bullet without actually stopping to pause, do the research, review the literature, decide what to measure and how to measure it, and then actually go about responding to the results that we see. Hopefully this was informative, and I look forward to seeing what everyone else is posting about as well.